Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Automation Nation inside Barnum. I'm Cody, and I have with me today Bryan with our tech support group. And today we are going to be discussing the value added services that HH Barnum does and these HHBs, we call them, little buzzword we hear all the time, and what exactly they are and what they do to really make Barnum a little bit different as a distributor than just someone who can sell you individual parts. So, Bryan, if you want to introduce yourself here
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick, how long have you been with Barnum and what do you actually do?
Sure, yeah. Brian Aiello, tech support. I've been at Barnum, just finished up my 14th year. December 1st was the beginning of my 15th year here. So I've been at it for a while.
Yeah.
I was actually interviewed for tech support, hired as customer service, was in customer service for about 4 years, and then
Okay.
went to tech support. So.
Does the customer service transition help with the tech support? Or is it just kind of, there wasn't a spot in tech support at that time?
Yeah, the way Barnum has always operated is that Barnum has tried to promote from within, and I respect that. And there was a guy at the time coming up from the warehouse that was going to be going into tech support, and so I went to customer service, and then
And wait your
the other
turn.
guy didn't work out, and then they had done a few other things, made a few other moves, um, but I was getting settled in there to customer service, and getting pretty good at the job. And then after a few years, a few other moves were made, and then it was just time.
Now, so that's, you got 10 years in tech support.
Yeah,
So you're probably one of the more senior guys in tech support and you're a group leader as well,
I'm a
right?
group leader. Yeah, right.
How many people total are in tech support and how many people do you kind of lead in tech support?
Sure. So my group it's uh, seven people total, including me. Um, the group as a whole is right now it's 16 for the moment.
16.
Jeff Wickings will be taking on a position in the lab as a group leader, and so we'll be 15 here at some point. So
15 strong in tech support.
15
Still,
strong. Yeah,
still a good chunk of people.
yeah, right.
I mean, that's probably got to be our second biggest department then. We got customer service. I mean, we don't count our sales,
Yeah,
but
we
our
don't.
customer service and then our tech support.
Yeah,
I mean, so we're saying we really have, a tech support person for every couple customer service, or every couple salesmen at this rate.
right. Yeah, yeah, and we kind of want to maintain that, right?
Hmm.
Because if that support's not there, and you're asking people who uh, don't typically do a particular job to do that job because they don't have the support,
Yeah.
then that causes other issues. We want our salesmen out there selling. We don't want our salesmen out there doing tech support, right?
And on tech support is such a broad topic. I mean, just in general, is Barnum's tech support more than just like troubleshooting? Like, is it people just call in, you troubleshoot something, we sold them, or is there a lot more to our tech support group than just that?
Yeah. So tech support is where customers go when a salesman can't answer a question, when a customer service rep doesn't necessarily know the answer to the question. Um, Manifolds, work orders of all types, troubleshooting, product recommendations,
Mm-hmm.
um, stocked options. Um, how does a product or a technology work, and how would it fit into an application? I mean, it's all sorts of stuff.
So I mean, it's pre-sales, post-sales,
Right.
internal help. I mean, it's literally, I mean, you name it, tech support's kind of the the nuts and bolts of everything beyond the selling. I mean,
Yeah,
I kind of see it that way.
right, right.
Um, I guess with tech support, you brought up work orders and some other things. And we're talking about value added services. Obviously, tech support is a massive value added service to Barnum. Um, but Barnum is a distributor having tech support work orders. I mean, what are all the extra value added things that we can kind of think of? We have our VMI cabinets that we
Mm,
do, which
hmm.
vendor managed inventory. We stock stuff for people at their own facility. And then you said work orders. Kind of what else fits into that category as like as a value added item that Barnum does or tech support helps out with? Like, I mean,
Sure. Yeah. So with those work orders,
mm-hmm.
things like manifolds, we pressure test and electrical test. Those things make sure that when they go out the door, that they're in working order. Make sure we didn't miss a gasket was ripped or something,
Sure.
and then a customer gets the manifold and it's leaking all over the place, whatever. We do get a lot of light curtain troubleshooting. We get the phone calls, but we also have sometimes a salesman or a customer will send a light curtain back to us before it goes back to Banner, for example, and we will see if we can get the light curtain to work or if we can duplicate the error that the customer has. And
We
then,
actually have that knowledge base to be able to assist with troubleshooting before having to lean on the manufacturer. We
sure,
usually should be able to speed up a process
sure,
of a
absolutely,
warranty claim or something like it because
right,
we might actually know how to fix it or test it out
right,
instead
yeah,
of that whole send it back process, wait in a queue, whoever, whatever the supplier might have to actually do and the
right,
factory has to do that.
yeah, exactly right, yeah. Um, Customers come in with just a random Legree fitting or something, and hey, I need 10 of these. One of us will meet the customer in the warehouse. We'll look at it, see if
Hmm.
we have something on the shelf that they can take with them. It's to put the I guess to land the plane here in terms of what tech support does. It's hard to put in a box
Sure.
because there's nothing that is typical. There's nothing that is routine. We're always learning new technologies, taking on new suppliers, learning their product.
And
Cus-
everyone's expected to do all of that, right?
right, yes,
There
correct.
isn't, this guy's the guy who crosses parts. This guy's the guy who knows the programming. It's expected if you get a hold of the group, someone in the group that can be handled, right? You
Correct,
don't have to
correct.
be passed on to passed on to passed on like in other places where,
Right,
oh, I got to get you to a different department.
right, right.
Tech
We
support should be able to figure it out.
we want everybody in the department at some point, and it takes time, obviously, but we want everybody to be up to the same level, right? We don't want one or two guys knowing everything about one
Hmm.
technology, and then if they're on vacation,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
we're in a bind, right? So the goal is to get everybody up to a certain level so that anybody could handle uh, the super majority of those requests.
Now, I mentioned HHBs
Hmm.
earlier.
Yeah,
So HHBs, um, I guess they're kind of a custom part number. That's what we see them as. But is the HHBs obviously is kind of just an acronym for HH Barnum.
sure.
But HHBs, what can they be? Like what do we do and how does tech support get involved with those? And what makes an HHB unique to Barnum as a distributor? Like I mean, what's the point of them? I
Sure.
guess.
Yeah. So um, the actual content of an HH Barnum part number, it can be anything. It can be a kit of three different lengths of sensor cables, and a customer just would prefer to order under a single part number, especially if they're doing, building the same machine over and over again, and they know that
Sure.
they're going to get this kit, and this is, the cables serve a certain purpose.
Hmm.
And it can be, we talked briefly about air preps and manifolds. We do a lot of SMC assemblies here, a lot of SMC assemblies.
Now, on that, just to segue a little bit, why would we assemble all the SMC stuff instead of having SMC pre-assemble it? Like, is there any special privilege to doing that?
Yeah, so, well, we stock a lot of components for these builds, and what we can do, uh, SMC, because they would be so backlogged if they did all this.
Because they're global. They're not
because
just
they are
our
global.
region.
Right, right. It would take them, I don't want to put a number to it, but it would take quite a while if you were to say, I need a 3/8 NPT, shut off, filter regulator, uh, lubricator, safety dump valve.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to get all those requests and try to absorb that workload themselves, it would be overwhelming. And so what we do is a customer or a salesman will say that a customer needs a particular configuration of an air prep, the size, the port threads, manifolds to go with it, and either give us a series of manifolds in the configuration, or sometimes it's, hey, we're running such and such size of actuators and we need a proper size valve. Can you help us out with that? And we will actually size the valve, and then we'll put part numbers together, bills of material for the air prep, the manifolds, whatever else is going to go with it. And then those HHB numbers will generate, and then we can quote those, and then the customer can look at those. We also have the ability to do SolidWorks drawings, models for those assemblies, so the customer can see how it's going to fit on their machine. And then if they want to make any changes at that point, easy to make changes. Tell us what they want to do.
Now, is that whole process like some big extra fee for a customer to have that done? Do you have to be a pretty special customer to get an HHB custom made for you?
No, we from the large customers down to just local tool shops, you get the same service. There's no added fee for building the manifold or anything like that, or sizing a valve or sizing an actuator. That's just something we do because we appreciate the business, because we want your application to go smoothly on your end. And yeah,
that's impressive on its own. Like, and all that then can be either customized to the way you want it to appear. Like, you can put their own part numbers on it.
Sure.
You can put our part
Absolutely.
numbers on it, and makes it easier for their purchasing or reordering. And then can those custom assemblies, if they wanted to, their customer saw it on the machine, can they buy it then too? Can someone else purchase that HHB, or is it unique to the person who created it?
Yeah. There's a situational element there, right? So, a lot of times it's not a problem if a customer just sees an HHB on a machine. We can, if an end user sees it, we can sell it to them. Sometimes there are elements of where maybe a whole package of HHBs was purchased by a machine builder, and there are elements to where they all have to work together, and we need to get the machine builder involved to make sure that, hey, are we just replacing a manifold here, or we, replacing a couple of valves here, or is there something where you need to get your design engineers to kind of review this with the customer?
I guess that having a part number that blankets over other part numbers also kind of can protect some builders or things like that too. So an end user or maintenance person doesn't just start buying components and maybe mucks up that assembly when the whole thing should just probably be purchased as a whole anyway.
Right.
So it is kind of also like a quality control thing. If someone wants to blanket something under an HHB.
Right. Exactly right. And that's another reason we like to do the assemblies here, because we'll send you out the components and you can build it yourself. But if you were to call us for troubleshooting, not 100%, we don't know the tools you use,
right? Exactly. If you torqued it right, exactly. Or things like that.
Right. So there are some of us who've been doing this a while, and we can kind of read into what the customer's saying to us in those situations. But you can only go so far. If we built it here, you get it. There's an issue. Send it back. We'll test it. We'll repair it. We'll send you out a new one. Whatever we need to do. Right.
No, for sure. That is on its own giant value added.
Sure.
Yeah. My opinion. the tech support builds all the HHBs, right? Or can a senior salesman who's pretty familiar with doing it do it on their own, or is it almost always tech support needs to handle these? Like, or is there some gray area in there?
We would prefer that technical support does it all. And one of the reasons for that is we have had a couple of sales guys get to know the system well enough to where they've done their own HHBs. The reason we want to do it is because if something happens, if something goes wrong, if there's a question about it, we're going to be the ones getting the call.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, if salesman A puts together an HHB and we have no idea that this happened and we have no idea what the application is or why they did it, and then we were to get the call about this HHB, there's a lot of backtracking to do there. Whereas if somebody in tech support gets it, even if I take the call and somebody else builds the HHB, I can ask the other rep,
Yeah.
hey, do you have the original email, or do you remember the phone call the salesman called in and asked for this assembly and why we did it like this?
Yeah.
And that way we can kind of contain any potential issues.
And that should be actually even managed a little better now that you mentioned Jeff in your group is going to be kind of moving into that role of kind of overseeing that process.
Right.
So there is a little less fingers digging in the bucket with
right.
that.
And that's one thing about I kind of alluded earlier to Barnum promoting from within.
Yeah.
And somebody who's been in customer service for a period of time and goes into tech support like I did, I know the processes, how things in customer service work, and I can integrate those skills into the tech support. Because at the end of the day, we are all customer service.
Yeah, and having that knowledge is why Barnum is so efficient.
Right.
Like if everyone knew literally nothing about the other sides of the departments, things would probably take a lot longer and there'd be a little bit more mistakes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so what Jeff is going to be doing, we're going to be at a significant advantage because he knows the tech support side of things.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be heading up some of the elements in the lab, and he's going to be able to marry the two departments in a way that maybe wouldn't be done if someone else were in that position.
Well, speaking of that lab, real quick, I mean, a lab, a lot of people might think of a lab as like your science class. Our lab is the people putting together these HHBs, these work orders. Just do you know off the top of your head about how many people we have in our lab now? I mean, I walk through there every other day, I think, and it seems like there's always someone new, but I don't even know how many people.
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be like 3 guys doing it when I started 7-8 years ago, but I mean, it's definitely expanded.
Yeah. When I started, it was Dana, and that was it. So Dana does his own thing. Dana he builds the panels, he builds the boards for the trailer. So he is focused on that and that alone now. And he does other things behind the scenes that he'll never get credit for.
Oh, yeah, he builds our demos for our different groups. I see that a lot. Right.
In terms of there's a portion of the lab, I think, that generally handle the pneumatics assemblies, and there's a portion of the lab that do the drives, the connectorized drives, the custom cables, things like that. So if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably between 10 and 12 people total. But like you said, I walk through there, and
hey, there's a crew in there. I mean,
yeah.
I'm always impressed at how much is going in and out of there. Their desks are always stacked up with product. I mean, it seems like Barnum really does seem to prefer to get their hands on stuff before it makes it to the customer.
Right.
Instead of just raw product, let's customize it in some way, whether it's even a sticker on it that proves that it's something special for your customer, or like you said, full assemblies, or just putting things together in a kit. So it's one part number versus 15.
Right.
It seems like Barnum really does pride themselves on making something unique to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we want our name in the customer's mind, right?
The HHBs in the work orders, obviously we talked about how much tech support does in general across everything from pre-sales, post-sales. How much would you say out of the whole group or even on a personal level do you spend on putting HHBs and work orders together? Like I average, let's say 40-hour week.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of that is just dealing with work orders?
Yeah.
Obviously that might get pumped back a little bit now that Jeff is going to start managing that a little bit more, but like, is that half of tech support's job, a third of tech support's job?
Yeah. So it's good question because I think if I had to put a number to it, I would say it's probably in terms of the time spent on the aggregate, maybe a quarter, maybe a quarter. Now there are times where you know, Amazon or somebody, you know, we have a lot of project stuff going on.
Yep.
And so maybe in those times it increases to 40%, right? And then maybe in maybe when that stuff is kind of done with, maybe it scales back to 15 or 20%. But
Sure.
on the aggregate, if I had to put a number to it, I'd say 25%.
It's a pretty good workload focusing on that. I mean,
It is, yeah.
It's nothing to shy away from that. It's not a big part of tech support.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, is there really anything besides what we've talked about so far that you would say is worth bragging about with the tech support group? Like what sets you guys apart in your mind, or just everyone has a tech support technically,
Yeah.
you're always going to find a tech support someone to call, but like why is Barnum's tech support special?
Yeah.
I mean, like anyone from tech support could probably go and do tech support somewhere else, but seems like obviously you've been around long enough, you
Yeah.
enjoy it, and it's worth us talking about. So
Right. I think the thing that separates Barnum Tech Support is the culture. We are tech support representatives. What does that mean? That means that anytime a purchasing manager sends an email looking for a stocked option, a maintenance manager calls and is having trouble with their light curtains, an engineer wants a manifold sized, that means we are representing Barnum to them. And what is Barnum? Barnum is you. Barnum is Ed Koza. Barnum is Dan Sano, Mark Wolf, Scott Knoll. So we take it personally. If something is wrong, if something goes amiss or doesn't go the way we thought it might go, we take it personally. I take it personally. When I send out that email with that product recommendation, that's my name on that email.
absolutely.
When I answer the phone, Barnum, this is Bryan, that's my name in that engineer's ear. And so I think what sets tech support apart is that it's not just a job to us, right? We do this for our customers, but we're doing it for each other as well.
I guess too, in that, I mean, there are some huge projects, huge customers, big dollar items, things that you could brag about that your name is on, that you suggested the products for that, or you helped design that. You might not be the GM engineer that designed the Hummer, but their assembly line wouldn't be building that thing if it wasn't for some of the products that
Right.
you guys help spec.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neat thing to hang your hat on as well, which you can get involved in behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to think about. I mean, it's not something, because of the nature of our job and how busy we are, and it's not something we think about much, but there have been times where, one of the lab guys will say that there was the Discovery Channel and there was an HHB, and I wonder if that had my initials on it, on the sticker.
I've done that personally. As part of my job as outside apps, I'm in facilities a lot,
Yep.
and a lot of times I'll be on a line helping troubleshoot something, and I'll see one of our HHB assemblies, and I've taken a picture of it before and texted it to the guy who I know who put that together, just
Yeah.
to be like, it's alive in the field. It
Right.
didn't go in
Yeah.
the dumpster. Check it out.
Right.
Something you worked
Right.
on
Yeah.
is right here on the robot.
Yeah.
I think some guys really appreciate seeing that every once in a while.
Sure. Yeah.
That they know what they're working on in front of them is whatever. It's not just their day to day.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that is good encouragement, I think, for some people. You're not you're not just spinning your wheels, right?
Mm-hmm.
To know that the time you're spending is being put to good use.
Yeah.
That it's going to what you're producing is going to produce vehicles,
America,
medical
Yeah,
equipment.
It's the classic.
Yeah. Whatever it
helping
happens to
build
be.
America.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
Yep.
right. Yeah.
Or other places all around the world. Our stuff isn't just local.
Right. That's
Um,
true.
I mean, that on that too, talking about, some pride in your work, I think it'd be cool to have, some random people who would like to share their day-to-day experience here at Barnum. Like, get some people from the lab who might not even know this recording studio exists,
Right.
and just have them, kind of explain what you explained. Like, you told me how we have this value added with what we can build and what we can do. Now the guys actually and gals putting it together, tell me how your day goes doing this kind of stuff. What do you see coming through it actually? Is tech support bombarding you all day and your job sucks because of how many HHBs
right.
they're sending you? Or, is it a nice workflow and you enjoy it and you like your coworkers, things like that? I mean, just nice, be cool to talk to those people as well, just about their culture here, how they feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd
Yeah,
be
and
neat.
right, yeah. And
Not
find-
everyone wants to sit in front of a camera, but I think it'd be nice to see the insides a little bit too.
Sure, yeah. Find out what you do beyond, okay, you build manifolds. Oh,
Mhm.
you also foam pack them and put them in boxes and make sure that nothing's going to break during shipping. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Stuff you don't
I
get
just
credit for.
walk through that lab here and there, and I don't know half the stuff they're doing in there. So it'd
Yeah.
be nice to, the other things that they focus on that, any other random person in the company could just step in and do tomorrow. They
Yeah.
have a lot of expertise in that. It seems like people in like the lab and in tech support do seem to, like you said, promote within. They move into that because they're pretty competent at that, or
Right.
they've been assembling these valve manifolds and stuff for so long. They're now borderline part experts on it. So, hey, let's move into tech support.
Right, yeah,
Because I'm so familiar with it anyway, might as well be the one suggesting them instead of just building them.
right,
So,
yeah.
how many people in the group now do you think came from the lab?
Uh,
Because obviously there's people that came from customer service,
right.
people that have maybe came directly into tech support. How many do you think actually came through that tier, that promote within style from the lab?
Yeah, it's at least 5 that I can think of. Cody, Casey, Josh, Steven, Alex Lamley. There may be 1 or 2 that I'm missing. I mean, this is just top of my head.
Yeah.
But
You got 15 people to
yeah,
always remember.
yeah,
And others that have moved on too.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's two guys in the apps group. They used to be in tech support. And I mean, so tech support isn't like the final end game if people don't want it to be either. We
Right.
even have people in our sales team that were in tech support.
Yeah, absolutely.
That moved out.
Right.
It's a wealth of knowledge being in that group to either excelling in tech support and become a group leader, or to move into another position if you really truly wanted to. If
Right.
crossing some parts isn't your deal after a few years.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that's, what you learn in any department here,
Mhm.
you can take to any other department here.
For sure.
We have people in customer service and in tech support who came up from the warehouse, and they have a wealth of knowledge of how things operate back there. And so if there are ever any questions about, hey, we got a, supplier says that tracking says that we got this part delivered this morning and this is what the customer needs, and how do we get this checked in, right? How do we go find that and get that checked in so that we can ship it out to the customer? We have people from the warehouse who have an intimate knowledge of how do we expedite that,
Sure.
right?
I'd be lost in that form. Like, I mean, when it comes to that, I'm glad we have a whole group that can handle that type of thing. And a really good example too of someone who's excelled in a different spot from working their way through tech support and other things is like our operations manager, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's really like exactly operations manager at Barnum.
Yeah.
He was a tech support guy, and
Yeah.
and that grew his knowledge of everything Barnum to the point where he wanted more.
Right.
And
Right.
it became, I mean, now he's handling all the background stuff that none of us want to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, beyond the product knowledge, just the knowledge of the processes and the
Yeah.
operations, how things work day to day
Mhm.
here at Barnum. And
It seems
and
like
he's
tech
great,
support is
and we love
just
him.
that core that can really mold you into whatever you want to be at Barnum, or be the final landing spot of a goal to reach to.
Sure.
So, I mean, I do see tech support as kind of being an anchor. I mean, I don't really hear many people complaining that tech support, is an issue. Maybe if it takes a little long for the request, if they're swamping you with a bunch of
Yeah.
junk all the time.
Yeah.
But if they didn't have tech support, I think there'd be some complaints.
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard that either, and that I'm grateful for that. But that's because of the people we have.
Yeah.
That is there is not a weak link in our group, and we are grateful for that, and I'm grateful for that, and we want to keep it that way, and that's why we're trying to bring everybody up to a certain level, So
does Barnum cover trainings for people in tech support if they want additional knowledge on things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you don't have to go learn something on your own in your free time. Like, Barnum's going to make sure you're
Yeah,
trained up.
so we do train our people, and some of the training is on the job. Hey, I just got a call about this newer rep. I just got a call about this this sensor, and the customer can't get the sensor to see the target, whatever. And here's the situation. Okay, we happen to have one of those sensors in our demo, or we happen to have a few on the shelf. Let's go grab one. Let's see if we can duplicate it. There is some sort of standard training that we do, and then a lot of the training is just going to be when you pick up that phone, you never know.
If you don't know it, that's also why you're a tech support group too.
Right.
So you can turn around to your coworker and say, "Hey, can you help me? Let's work on this together." And now you are knowledgeable on that. So the next time you can handle that if it comes in by itself.
Right.
It's great mentality there. It kind of hinders competing as well, because obviously there's so many product lines that Barnum has that if people wanted to like compete against each other in that group, I don't think anyone would succeed.
No.
It's all a team effort.
Right. Yeah, it is a team effort. And going back to something you mentioned just a couple moments ago, that a tech support rep wouldn't have to do something on their own, but they can. And I've done it several times. Come across a product, a couple requests, product I don't really know much about. We have maybe around Christmas time where the emails aren't quite as heavy. Go pull some product, set it up.
Do your own research.
Do my own research. And that's where a lot of my learning came from. So that's the beauty, one of the other beauties of how we can get better at what we do is that we do have that freedom to, we're fairly autonomous, and we do have that freedom to take the time to learn the product, to read the manuals, to pull the product, to wire it, to test its limits, see what it can do.
Yeah. Yep. You can actually have some fun with it a little bit too. And
Absolutely.
no one's hardwired to a schedule as long as the customers are being handled and the salesmen are being handled. Feel free to learn something else, or if someone wants to jump in on doing drawings one day
Right.
or something like that, you don't have to just be chugging away at the same thing.
Right. Yeah. That's absolutely accurate, and it keeps the job fresh,
Mm-hmm.
keeps it from getting stale and monotonous.
Yeah, for sure. When I glance at the tech support inbox every once in a while, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do this. But I mean, after talking to you about all the different little things and the change up, I mean, it's not as monotonous as it feels like it is, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. There's always something new.
Mm-hmm. Well, overall, I think we got a pretty good picture of what tech support does. I mean,
Great.
tech support is literally the definition of value added for Barnum, and I know that is something our salesmen and management love to talk about. Is the value added services that Barnum is, which that's just what tech support encompasses,
Right.
is value added. If there's anything else you got you like to share about tech support or whatnot, Barnum in general, your experience at Barnum, feel free. Otherwise, we can get wrapping up.
Just kind of reiterating about the culture, I guess. I mean, Barnum, when we represent Barnum to customers, that means that we need to put forth our best effort. We need to be on our game.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we present Barnum to a customer in a poor light, and then somebody else, a manager or a salesman, needs to go in there and represent Barnum again and clean up a mess, well, that's my name on that mess, and I don't want that.
I really like the way you break that up as representing. Like it's a good way to show that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And people know Barnum. They buy from Barnum. They see Barnum.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have a different interaction every once in a while.
Right.
And instead, your goal is to really make it a good experience.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it seems like, again, going back to culture, that is the goal of everybody here. It's not about, putting a big smile on your face so you can get that next paycheck. It's everyone just likes working here and building that culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Very few complaints, which is awesome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We want when people think of the name Barnum, we want the warm and fuzzies to come with that, right? We don't want them to think of Barnum and horror story, right? So
someone just digging in their pockets.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but that's it. That's it for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on this.
Thanks for having me.
Not like I said before, not everybody wants to come and sit in front of a camera, but this was a great conversation. Cover another little section of Barnum. Maybe in the future we'll get some more tech support guys on here and even do some technical stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Get some little mini trainings going on and see how many guys can flaunt their knowledge for me too in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
That's another episode of Automation Nation.